Logic. G'day legends, welcome back to All Reason No Logics Beyond All Reason, and we are on a free-for-all map, the new map Claymore, which is very big for a free-for-all for only 5 people, but you can see the map divided into 5 lots of 3 triangle segments.
I'm actually quite surprised that it doesn't drop everyone in the middle for a bit of a tighter start, but makes sense that they're all starting
Yeah, that would have
on
been
an
nice.
outside
At least with
location.
5, there's even space in between each of them.
Exactly, though this map would be pretty insane with 10 people, or better yet, 15.
Straight off the bat, I think my money's on Phantom. He's got OS of 26 in free-for-all. Everyone else is around that starting rank, 15 to 18s for the other 4 players, so we shall see. And I like that Shooter's Shot has gone and divided himself off where he wants his medal, so hopefully everyone listens to him and lets him have his medal. I don't think
I
that's the
don't
way it
think they
works.
can even. I don't think he can see anyone else can see his markings. It's not. It's not quite how that one works.
Yeah.
But you know what? More power to him. If he's going to expand that far, he's going to be eating right into the green player Wanira's territory. Speaking of which, Wanira has jumped in and is playing as Armada, going with vehicle start. Vehicles do have a little bit of issue with going up and down these ramps, but not too much. This is a very open map, so vehicles are going to be quite the strong units. A lot of other players jumping out with the bot starts. In fact, it looks like all other players have started with bots, so we'll see whether that can lead the green player Wanira into the victory. Though, as you said, the final boss in this one looks like it may be Phantom. Phantom with the OS 26, one of the more experienced players, but we do know from playing with Wanira a lot that he can pull out the win in some pretty interesting circumstances.
And being on the opposite side of the map, furthest away from Phantom, probably a little bit of an advantage for Winera there. We shall see how that goes for him. Winera, one of the All Reason No Logic members, along with Black Death and 3 other guests joining us, the red, blue and yellow. And just so you all know, we have this on anonymous mode, so for these players, when they come across an enemy, it's always red.
And that being said, with the gap between Wanira and Phantom, whichever players end up winning against their closest opponents, they'll gain a medal advantage that could be used. So potentially the players in between could be a detriment if one is more aggressive than the other.
It's definitely beneficial to be aggressive in free-for-all game types because taking out an enemy team gets the reclaim of their commander as well as any wrecks that you pick up along the way, making all the difference.
Looking at a lot of these players, we've got some scouting coming on through to each side out of some of the more experienced players. Small little skirmish between the yellow player and the blue player, but overall just a single unit and a denied scout. We definitely see Phantom looking to expand towards the yellow player. In fact, aggressively so. So not trying to take his own triangle, but automatically trying to get into another player's triangles. It is worth noting that the players don't actually know they're split up this exact way.
It's very important to get that initial scouting information, know your spots, know where you're essentially going to get free medal by just simply walking out to a location because no one's there. And then places that you need to send your army because the opponent has an army also.
And any ability that you have to take a fight and then grab the replay in a free-for-all is going to get you a big advantage over anyone else. Looking expand.
Sorry, mate. You go. I was
No.
just going to mention the geos.
Looking expansion-wise, Wanira is the first one into his center triangle, but that has been scouted, thankfully not taken out by the blue player. But blue is also the hardest expanding in all 3 directions at the moment. Definitely trying to claim that, and most of his units on the front line for yellow, though he's about to be quite outnumbered. We've got 7 grunts to 5, so the engagement is going to be quite important, and they're coming through just before that LLT, but backing out. So that LLT is going to make the difference in the next fight, and blue will have the advantage there.
Shooter's shot definitely getting pinched on quite a bit by the green and blue players. And I did think that these wins bunched up too tight, or is there a gap in
Oh,
between?
definitely. There is there's
There
a
is
gap,
a gap, so they
but it's
won't
not enough to
technically.
stop chain reacting. You need to double that gap size in order to stop the chain react. It won't instantly chain react, but once you get a diagonal sweep through them, then they're definitely going to.
So a well-placed bombing run could do something. I'd like to see Rhaenyra push these tanks. Bottom half of the map, definitely with most of the action. Very quiet from Pink, playing very defensively. Just going for that slow expansion that is giving blue some extra advantage
If you look
in
at
their
the
space.
if you look at the red player, almost no offensive units, just a couple up in his base, and the few he sent around scouting before. So he's definitely going to get quite the ability to eco this game. So he could be a dark horse running through this match. So we'll keep an eye out on him. And yes, you are shooter's shot. You are getting bullied from both sides, and that is one of the unfortunate things about an FFA. If you're stuck between two of the aggressive players, then you end up taking the brunt of it. But good bit of light-hearted banter as the red player tells him to fight back, which he is doing. He's got the most pawns out of anyone in the game, and pawns are what we consider to be one of the grunts being one of the best units in the game. As long as you control them half decently and get surrounds, their DPS is kind of crazy for their cost. But
Really not
these
looking good here for Shooter Shoot. Blue
no,
definitely showing that increased OS experience, just constantly microing on all fronts, making sure that economy is expanding at the same time as units going across. And I think they've just been essentially sent to each mechs, so they're on constant commands to just clear out anything in its path which can come at a free trade.
very much so a free trade.
Looking around at economies now, at the top, we've got blue, red, and green all on approximately 30 metal. Blue just jumping to 40 actually. Must have got something up. No T2, just a couple mixes coming online. Simple as that. And then yellow and pink down at the lower end, around teens, low 20s. And energy pretty consistent across the board. Everyone into the mid to upper hundreds.
Except yellow, who's shot well ahead with these wind farms, though not sure how long they'll last under the current aggression. But looking over here, yellow is pushing into the green player's base with all of those pawns. He's managed to bypass the front lines, and even though there's a couple of blitzers chasing, these units actually have a straight run into the green base during his T2 transition.
That
Couple
is
of
a problem.
couple of blitzers are coming to stop this, but if those pawns if those pawns go for the right attack angle, definitely going to be big. I'd actually be splitting them up and going to all of the external mexes at the moment.
Think they will
That'd be
get
my
shut
play.
down with those couple Janus. And on the other end, blue is harassing yellow, so unfortunately their micro attention is being taken away.
But one of them is getting into the base. It is getting
And the Jags are
sniped
out.
by the Jag. A good old Jag. Yeah, on the other side, more combat, but currently a bit of a stalemate. Blue is looking to run himself into yellow, but there is much more on the yellow side at the moment. And a good trade from the yellow player right there. Got a good side-on engagement. All the damage coming online at once. So great little trade there. But the economy is definitely heavily in favor of the blue player. He's got 2 geos coming up simultaneously. That's going to be a huge boost to power. And he's got T2 on the way to convert all of those mexes, jumping up to the look at the red player, similar sort of mex outlay, but doesn't have the geos and is not going into T2, so he will start falling behind very quickly. The pink player, Black Death, just starting to expand sideways now, but he is certainly falling behind with his slow turtle
This is what I
playstyle.
was talking about at the start. It's worth just scouting out because you'll see over here and over here Those 2 points have not even been simply walked into by any player yet this game, so that could be free metal for whoever walks up there.
Green trying to get into yellow's base, but great defense with the pawns. Does lose all the pawns, but does stop the units from pushing on through, and is now pincering them between the comm. These units might be able to push through, but doesn't quite look like it at this point. That Jaguar though, certainly T2 power right there. Though if he pushes into blue, he won't get very far. Good spread out defenses, LLTs all over the place. Certainly quite a defensive set of plays from the blue player, keeping himself safe from all angles. Spread out LLTs, which he can afford because of that additional metal income. However, it has meant his army's been behind for most of this game, which is why he hasn't been able to take on and take out the yellow player yet. Could free up more metal, but safe play is not a bad thing in an FFA, so long as you keep the pressure up and make the opponent think that you have more units than you actually do.
Shooters shoot, begging to be left alone. And blue player, Phantom, realizing he's got a good amount of metal under his belt with, let's call them 4 heals under his control. And knowing this is the time to build up that eco and make sure that once shooters shoot falls, he's got the advantage.
Nice. Currently has 3 tier 2 constructors going around doing his work for him. All of them backed up by twitches, so they're going to get very fast mexes up and running. And with those 2 geos, that's a huge amount of power to back this eco play. And as we see, he's jumped up from 40 to 70 in just the space of a couple minutes by going to those T2 extractors.
Probably the only other
Rhaenyra,
contender is Rhaenyra, who's getting those T2 mexes built and got the advanced geo in the queue. So once you get one of those advanced geos up, as Blue's doing also right now, that is actually enough to fund T3. Very light T3, but still enough to get a couple units out every minute from T3.
So Rhaenyra's only got the 1 T2 constructor going around, so it's going to be a very slow transition into that high mex, and he doesn't currently have quite enough energy to push on through, and I've seen the metal drop from those T2 extractors being out of power.
And red going into blue's base asking, are you the almost dead guy? And he's about to find out he is the least dead guy.
Unfortunately, they don't know which player is which. When you see the other players, they're just going to be red with question marks above them. So red trying to just tease shooter's shot.
Black Death still the only player on T1. Really needs to get out there and build on all those mexes.
But he has been unharassed, so he does have a large T1 force.
I like the aggression out of red here. Going through, taking out a few of the metal. Points going to get the T2 constructor. That would do quite a bit of...
The T2 constructor would be a great little win, but I don't think he hasn't seen it just yet. And it looks like he's going to move through. These LLTs are a great little thing, particularly the twin guards to have around, but once you have more than a couple units, they're only a very slight barrier. So they're great for early game and run bys, but that's about it.
Rhaenyra aggressing on the bottom at the same time as these T1 red units are pushing up. Would like to see the Centurions going in before the light plasma bots.
Sheldon's taking out the force from red that's been harassing blue.
The red player, first player to actually have the balls to go into the middle of the map.
Capping those extra medals will be a big deal, and particularly if you can get that extra geo. If you're the right faction, you can put a geo cannon on it and shut down effectively all of the high ground mechs, provided you can still hold that middle.
Rhaenyra with a lot of metal in the bank. Our green player not able to spend this metal and going to be overflowing soon. I would like to see that metal put into that advanced geo, which has been cancelled.
It's got the
it's back on again.
He's getting the extra builders he needs for it, but he does need more build turrets. He could have quite the Jaguar force, and he could actually pretty much run over red if he converted that into those Jaguars. The red player does have Recluse, but those are not known for the speed that Jaguars are, and red is very reliant on all of his wind. So that could be a crippling blow if the Jaguars got in there. Red does have another Geo open to them, but hasn't taken it yet.
Defensive all around, all players opting for a lot of turrets. Maybe not red. Red really doesn't have much. Everyone else.
Red is playing this one fast and loose, but considering he's got a lot of
Recluse.
He's managed to get a lot of eco, even though he's not going heavy on the units or the defenses. So all it would take is slight harass. One pawn running around could take 90% of his mexes.
Respect to shooters shoot. Clawing back into this. Still got enough metal to produce small T1, T2 units, the Fiends and the Sheldons.
Got an anti-nuke coming up for the blue player, recognizing and playing the defensive game.
He wants the win. Can feel it.
So from what we see from everyone else, no nukes coming out just yet. So that should have plenty of time to get up online and running before any real threats. So if you really do look at the way this area is spaced out, the anti-nuke realistically should be sitting on one of the advanced geos.
Yeah, I like that.
Then it would cover all 3 nodes.
Yellow in a struggle here. Only got Fiends to defend it against Fiends. And who's got more?
Yellow has more Fiends at the moment, or at least more Fiends on the front line. If they punch through, they should be able to get the Sheldons too. Fiends, great for taking out Sheldons because of their speed and high damage. And these Sheldons low, you just can't sit there and take poke damage while you're waiting for the engagement.
It is unfortunate because Yellow actually has plenty of metal and just hasn't been building units. Needs to commit to these Fiends just pushing straight through, doing the damage.
And here we go, we've got them pushing through, and the Sheldons are right on the front. Fiends against Fiends, this should be Yellow advantage, and it looks like it is, and they'll get in and hopefully get a bunch of those Sheldons at the same time. This could actually be a full cleanup for the blue player's army. Great job coming out of the yellow player, managing to push this back. Isn't quite going to get the whole lot, but man, for being behind, that's a good engagement.
That one Centurion there enough to put that Fiend off of pushing any further. Going into a Mammoth, interesting choice. Mammoth's a great unit, but the Sheldons, I think, do they outrange it?
They do outrange it.
Yeah, to 850, so outrange.
But
by
they
200.
don't outrange Persecutors.
This is right, but no Persecutors in the queue. Oh, there's a Persecutor there. I missed it. I was thinking Arbiters.
Arbiters actually wouldn't be too bad against the Sheldons. You just have to wait till they stand still and try and get a good initial volley before the other player knows you've got them.
Green going into our first air transition from what I can see. Nope. Yes,
oh,
first one.
Like that.
Blue going into an air transition as well. So, but also getting an APHIS up.
Is there any anti-air on the map at all at this point in the game? I don't think there is.
And straight into the Lich. So people, if you have 2 Liches, that's all it takes to take out Commander in one pass. Just 2 bombs coming out the bottom of those planes will clean up a Commander. I think it does about 60% of damage.
And if you look at the Lich, it's already been switched to hold fire, which means that is exactly what he's going for.
And the Recluse from red coming back in, and they are currently targeted to go and touch on an empty hill and then move over to green. Unfortunate for green after going for this Lich transition. Actually probably unfortunate for the red player because that Lich will just clean up those units pretty quick.
I personally wouldn't use it for cleaning up those units. I'd actually accept the loss of a couple of T1 mechs. I'd try to defend with the Mausers and the Jaguars, and I would just go for the comm snipe, because if they've invested that much money in the Recluse and very likely eco at this stage, it should be an easy comm snipe. Though, comm sitting invisibly on the side, so it's not going to be an easy comm snipe. Got to get something in there to scout it.
Just trying to figure out where the edge of the map is. It's hard to tell on this map. Just drawing a line of wind to show where it disappears. So You can't actually go around the edge of the map with the planes. You have to go through over someone's base.
So, so is the edge actually the coast? Like, just bang on the
Pretty
coast?
much, and there's a little triangle out the bottom of each side of the octagon that you can, I guess, store aeroplanes over.
That means that you very much so could run these Recluse or a Kagi around the outside of the map below the, like, just on the coastline. You'd be able to pop right up into people's bases and very likely go unseen because radar coverage is not very good over a hill. Clicking on Green's radar, you can actually see, even though it has areas that should be in range, they are not because of the high ground blocking them there.
Those spiders coming up
Depends.
over the hill, and we've got the jaguars engaging. So even though there's more fighters, because they are relatively close together, the engagements in Wanira's favour the green player because of the lightning jumping from unit to unit.
It also, just the speed of the Jaguars meant that they dodged a lot of those rockets. A single rocket volley is enough or very close to enough to take out a Jaguar, but all of the rockets actually have to hit, and they don't have much, if any, tracking. They're just a set and forget. So not so good against those highly mobile targets. So the attack shut down by Wanira. Having a quick jump over to the blue player, air transition here as well. Lots of fighters there, and going into the T2 air lab with constructors on the way. We'll see what he gets. And big APHIS play. That's 6 APHIS going down in the queue.
Definitely going for the end game in one full sweep. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a huge air play from Phantom, building that air lab right on the edge of all the build power. And I think the time of the Lich is possibly over. That second one just coming up now, and might be beneficial against maybe the red player or others. Do we have any anti-air over here? Really nothing. So red would be where to go if you are the green player.
Try and get that APHIS if you can.
Not much out in the yellow base either, so it will probably stop with blue, but definitely could take out 1 or 2 players with those.
The only two air defenses at the moment are the fighters running over the top of the blue base. Though I actually think, based on where they are, you might even get the bombs off because liches are quite tanky. Particularly if you had 3 of them and one of them was sacrificial, I actually think you'd be able to snipe the blue com.
We've got a advanced radar plane coming out and now focusing onto T3 while we go and micro those units.
Coming into green's base is a ghost, but it tried to walk between the turrets and got picked up, so no ghost in green's base.
Was that coming from red?
The red? It's coming from the red player. There are others coming around the map. If you look in the middle of the map, there are a few headed towards the blue player to see what they can see, and some spread out.
I think we're about to see
play from
exactly how we expected.
Big play from the pink player coming into the blue player's base, sending the hounds first, unfortunately, so those guys aren't going to get that damage from the backline. The T1 not tanking and doing what they needed to do. Oh yeah, we did. I missed that. We did have the nuclear bombers taking out the yellow player. But pink is currently pushing on in and taking some of the dominant position of blue. Blue actually does not have any real units. He needs to switch to unit production ASAP. If Black Death just marches on into the middle of blue base, he will be able to take out those APHIS, no problem. Kagi's coming up now, but if that force hadn't stopped to take out defenses that you do not need to fight, he actually could have taken the blue player out. And the ghost is still creeping its way on in. Too much lost at this point for the pink player, unfortunately, to move on through and take on the blue player. But that could have been a game-ending play for the blue player. And we've got Marauders coming up from Wanira. He is getting ready to see what he can push into with the blue player. Red still surprisingly little to no aggression coming his way.
Well, what's happened with Red?
Do whatever he wants.
Red has lost the base. That must have been the rest of the leeches.
Ah.
I did miss that. So while you were talking about Pink's push, the yellow player was taken out by those liches and they must have headed north and got the eco when they couldn't find the commander, which was masked.
Oh, great job with those liches managing to take one player and take out a huge amount of energy, and in fact all the build power, most of everything for the red player. We'll see whether the red player can get anything much done, getting some arbalists down to defend against air, but now we have the marauders coming through to clean things up.
Blue capitalizing on the death of the yellow player and the person who killed him, green, not capitalizing it at all.
Got to get when you take on a play when you take out a player, you've got to try and take as much advantage as you can. We can look at the ecos at the moment while we're in a slight bit of a pause, other than the marauders running on through. 255 metal income for blue, and that is over 100 higher than anyone else in the game at the moment. So he's definitely going to keep pulling ahead as the game goes on.
A little bit of salt coming out of our red player, just Barisu, knowing that
He
there's
did
not
so
much he
well,
can do. He was doing great.
but a couple of liches not quite so good for his eco. You call those T3.
Enjoying the
At least
loss.
he's a good sport about it. Who doesn't love liches? Let's be honest. Nuclear bombers for the win. And Winira potentially looking to investigate the pink player. Blue still just ecoing away at this point. So long as he doesn't get sniped by something, you should just be able to take the win. I'd like to see him moving away from those APHIS into some units, because at this point he's just dragging it out where he doesn't need to.
Blue very much covering all bases, building the Nemesis, the counter intrusion, so that we don't see any stealth units or stealth tanks coming through. That's one play that we don't see enough of, is those T2 stealth tanks coming through the back line and taking out ecos.
Particularly build power there. Fantastic for causing chain
eco
reactions with build power. Yes, I'm a bit disappointed that there is a counter intrusion. I would rather have liked to see some sort of crazy play, though. It still does require him to be paying attention, which evidently he is, because he is reclaiming the
plane
ghost.
going over Pank. We might see another bombing run happen here, and it's going to be essentially a two-player game soon.
Definitely enough liches to punch on through. They've seen the comm. They are targeting the comm, and that is GG for Black Death. Unfortunately, not enough air defenses there to hold off the liches. He managed to get one of the three, but he needed to get at least two.
Definitely a good base by Black Death, but just took too long to get out of that T1 by restricting himself to only the one hill, when he could have probably had three like all the other players.
The crazy thing is, with his T1 army, if he hadn't stopped to fight the defenses and just pushed straight on through, he actually would have had plenty to take on the blue player, because the blue player went full eco. And while he did get a Kargi out, the Kargi, as long as you didn't try and fight the Kargi and you just went for the APHIS, you'd have taken out the base. No worries.
Got three Kargis there for
Winira's Medusa's facing the wrong way.
Mauser's.
Mauser, sorry. But they have turned around in time to stop these pawns.
Just in time.
Marauders looking for a way into the blue base, but at this point the blue player is online. Look at that. Look at that grunt spam.
Definitely the blue player's game to lose. I don't know what the answer to this is going to be. It is not going to be so effective now. Got plenty of Valiants up by the blue player, and lots more coming out.
Best thing you can hope for is a snipe on the comm, because when you're 200 metal behind, it is not an easy game to play, but these units going in on a move command, not a fight command, so they're going to be lost as well. Unfortunate little bit of miss micro from Winira, but he is trying to go for that comm snipe. He's got 2 liches at the moment. He definitely needs more than that to get the comm snipe.
Now, advanced Geo probably being the death of his best chance to win there. Taking out all the Mausers with, the Marauders with that explosion.
Bugger. Still, it is a little bit of power down for the blue player. Every little bit counts. Unfortunately, those liches have been taken down. They didn't come in with a big enough air escort or enough of them to ignore the fire. So those liches not going to make the progress they need. No more in the build queue. So we're not going to get a snipe there.
I'd love to see the
And as
blizzards built instead of the liches. You can build almost, I think it's 9 for every one lich, and if you get enough out and escorted by a bunch of fighters, this economy is set up for a perfect explosion from blue.
yeah, but you're wrong because liches are nuclear bombers. They're way cooler.
They're cooler. They won't get there though, but they're cooler. They look good when they're flying. They look better when they're
But
crashing.
yes, but you are right. A whole bunch of blizzards right now would be a sound strategic move, because if he's seen even any of the eco, which let's have a quick look at his view, he's blissfully unaware of the 6, almost 7 Aphis that are powering the blue player. So not, well, if he knew that, I think his tactic would be quite different. There is almost no way that these units will be able to push on in.
Blue with a commanding eco, and green still unable to build, use all the metal. Overflowing with 12k in the bank. And how much have we overflowed? Metal excess. Not too much, only 500. Nothing compared to red,
20k
who
for the
overflowed for red, yeah.
yeah,
That would be
20k for
from
the red.
the death of the eco with all the
Yeah,
mixes still
yeah.
online.
We'll have to have a look at the graph to see exactly when a lot of that happened. Marauders trying to find an avenue of attack, but they are just being picked apart at the moment. Phantom has just grabbed way too much eco at this point, and he can just power on through from every angle. None of when you're the green player, not taking any of the other areas that he conquered and leaving them to blue. So not quite going to get him up.
These pit bulls don't fire quite fast enough for this amount of grunts, so we're going to see them
Pitbulls
put
are
down. The
phenomenal
Razorback is...
defenses, but you need to pair them with flame turrets. Thankfully, the grunts do not have the correct waypoint, so they didn't get into the base. Another lich is up. We'll see whether he can get enough to make the difference. Looks like he's powering out these liches. Extra build power available to him. He's got the metal to get a whole bunch of these liches up. There is just so much AA though. Slightly out of position, but
I think the
there
only
is so
way
much
would be
space.
to go down around the map here and then up there. You'd probably
Yep.
connect if you do get enough airplanes up in the sky. Energy now or near his problem.
Even then, if you don't get the comm, there is so many units on the map at this point that I think that if the blue player just grabbed everything on the map and set it to move into the middle of Winira's base, I think that it would be a win, particularly seeing as there's 5 Kargis about to come up on the middle hill for Winira. 3 liches. Oh, they are. They're going around the outside. And they have a very slight amount of scouting. So if these guys can actually push their way around, though there is that little air pack that took out the last set, is sitting in the way. So he needs something to take those out.
And unfortunately the flak's just too powerful for those liches. And we're seeing the mass grunts come to town. At the same time, we've got the Kargis peeking over the hill, taking out those advanced mexes. The Pitbull's doing some work, but definitely not enough. And we're seeing those first units reach the economy. I think, nope, running away from those Razorbacks.
Razorbacks great for killing grunts, but
probably the perfect answer to them.
Interestingly, so are Kargis. If you've ever had to watch a Kargi take on a grunt or tick army, absolutely slaughters them.
That's because they track, I guess.
And their fire rate's just, the damage is perfect and the fire rate's so great. But at this stage, it looks like the mass economy all the way, almost up at 600 metal a minute, 600 metal a second, for the blue player is just going to overpower Winira, but great little showing out of him. He managed to take out 2 of the other players, so I'm technically going to give him the win, because he did get more player kills. In
And
fact,
we
he took 3
are,
players.
yeah, definitely.
So
I love those Lich bombings. Doing the most work, allowing blue to sit there for a big portion of the game and just focus on the eco. I mean, but that is the way to win the game.
Yep.
Identify when you should be pushing and when you should be attacking, and we're going to see that Geo go down and probably almost take out those Razorbacks.
Not quite. They must have been right on the edge of that range.
And
But that is
accepting defeat.
Rhaenyra down, and that is great play out of Phantom. He did exactly what you said. He identified when he could eco, when he could defend, and when he could be offensive, and he managed to take the game by storm
And like
by
you
making
said,
the right decisions.
Rhaenyra doing everything, they're doing everything award, and you did
Yep.
see that in the gameplay, constantly aggressing. Probably just would have liked to see a slight bit more expansion out of Rhaenyra. Could have taken a few of the mexes down on the low ground between him and red that weren't ever scouted. But yes, blue play are just too powerful. As the OS indicated in this game, it was predicted that blue would get the win, especially when all players cannot see what color the other player is, so they couldn't pick on anyone. We hope you guys liked that one. If you'd like to watch more, jump on, hit that subscribe button and hit the like button. Also, if you want to join in on our games or cast, jump over onto our Discord. The link is down in the description.
Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you next time.